The Xpander's looks are a love it or hate it deal. I must admit that I wasn't a fan of it when I first saw it, but it has grown on me, and I might even say that it looks good, especially in this trim with the aero package. But whether you hate it or love it, you can't accuse it of looking boring. It is definitely out there when it comes to aesthetics, and it makes the Rush, the BRV, and the rest of the competition look pretty ordinary by comparison. It is powered by a 1.5-liter engine coupled to a 4-speed automatic. It produces 105 horsepower and 141 Nm of torque. You'd think that it would be underpowered because you have a subcompact engine and a pretty large frame, but it actually wasn't too bad. I drove it with 3 other people on board and it didn't really feel that sluggish. It has about the same horsepower as the Rush, but the Rush felt slightly more responsive. Probably because of a better power to weight ratio, but it is not that noticeable and it's not something that the buyers of these vehicles would probably care about. This is the GLS Sport variant, which is the top of the line model. The GLS Sport comes with a chin and side skirts. Like on a lot of modern crossovers like the Juke and the Kona, the headlights are actually down here where you'd expect the fog lights to be. These are actually the daytime running lights. It has a very busy looking front end. Most cars have what looks like a face at the front. It's hard to make out a face here on the Xpander. It looks like it was born with a birth defect. Like I said, I wasn't a fan of the look before, but it has grown on me. Like on the Montero, the Xpander also has a cut on the last pillar to give the illusion that the roof is floating. It has prominent fender flares, and there are plenty of cuts and creases along the sides of the vehicle. The Xpander has 16-inch wheels with 205/55 tires. The Xpander has more cargo space at the back than the Rush, when the third row seats are folded down because the seats fold down flush. Interior space is about the same compared to the Rush. Interior materials are also comparable. You can tell where the manufacturers cut costs in these vehicles. The interior is entirely made of hard plastics. There is not a single padded surface inside the car, not even the armrests. The interior of the Xpander looks pretty nice actually. Much better than the Rush in my opinion. It has plenty of sweeping curves and plenty of fake leather stitching. Fake but convincing. It looks like it's made of premium materials until you start knocking on it, and then you realize that everything is made of hard plastics. The seats are made of fabric. There is no center armrest, but you have this this compartment, which is not very deep. You have 2 cup holders. And there's a 12-volt outlet here and a USB port. And then there's also an aux jack. It has a start-stop button. Power side mirrors that are power retractable. The Xpander has manual climate control, unlike the Rush, which has automatic climate control. It has a 7-inch infotainment display. The Xpander has a rear camera, while the Rush does not. It also has cruise control, which the Rush does not have. There are 4 aircon vents for the rear passengers with fan speed controls within reach of the second row passengers. Interior space for the second row passengers is expectedly good. The same goes for the Rush and all the MPVs in this class. Unless you're 7 feet tall, you're not going to have headroom problems. And the seats can be moved back for more legroom. The third row seat is usable. You get more space than you would on a midsize SUV. I could actually sit upright with my hair just slightly brushing against the ceiling. Second row seats can be moved forward to give the third row passengers more legroom. Driving the Xpander was a pretty ordinary affair. I always have to keep in mind that this is a low-cost vehicle to keep my expectations low, but it surpassed at least some of my expectations. For one, it didn't feel underpowered, at least in city driving, where I didn't exceed 80 kph. Driving it on the highway might be a different affair considering that it only has a 4-speed automatic. There's not a lot of sound insulation. Noise levels were relatively high, but like I said, it's something forgivable at this price point. One thing that particularly bothered me was the lack of a center armrest. I'm used to resting my right elbow on an armrest when driving. And then the left side armrest on the door siding is not padded, it is bare plastic. I mean, how much would it have cost to have it padded? That is extreme cost cutting right there, and something that I really don't appreciate. Both the Rush and the Xpander have their own advantages, and it's up to the buyer to determine which features are more important to them. The cruise control of the Xpander is very useful if you do a lot of highway driving. The higher ground clearance of the Rush would be more useful if you do a lot of driving on rough roads. In terms of looks, it is all subjective, but the Xpander looks more like an aggressively styled van, and the Rush looks like a small SUV. The one thing that surprised me the most about the Xpander is its price. This top-of-the-line Xpander sells for just a million pesos, and the base model just sells for a little over 800,000. Just a little bit more expensive than an automatic Vios. At that price, it's easy to forget a lot of its flaws. I've known for a while that these vehicles are very popular, and I now know why. You get something that's practical, it seats 7 people, it is relatively economical, it is cheap, but it looks more expensive than it actually is.